Hello and welcome everyone to my Fantasy Premier League channel FPL Inklink. My name is Mo and today we're going to talk about my 5 errors and mistakes to avoid from last season in this FPL season 2021-2022. Before we begin, if you've come here for the first time, I'd like to welcome you. If you've come back and you're watching my content again, I'd like to thank you for coming back and viewing my content. So before we begin, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please hit that subscribe button. Help me grow the channel, and in addition, if you like the content, please hit that thumbs up icon. And if you want to get the latest notifications for when I release my content and you want to be the first to view it, please hit that button of the bell icon on your screen and you'll be notified as soon as I release my content. So let's get started and let's talk about the things that I made, or the errors I made last season, which I'd kind of recommend for myself. Obviously I'm going to be trying to avoid them this season, and I kind of recommend to you guys to also not make the same mistake that I did last season. So let's start with the first one. The major mistake I made, it was not planning ahead. So not having like a long-term plan. So I was very short-sighted. I was going for short-term gains. I was making rash decisions and it didn't really pay me any dividends. So what do I really mean? It's a very ambiguous statement just to say long-term planning. What is that long-term planning in terms of like breaking it down into 3 parts? So 12 games per plan, or is it every 4 weeks, or is it every wild card when it becomes available in December? What does it actually mean? What is a long-term plan? So this can include a lot of things. So first things first is having a look at the fixtures and kind of understanding which players you're kind of banking on, or which players you're investing in heavily. For example, your premiums such as Salah, Kane, Bruno, Mane, Sterling, De Bruyne, these kind of players, or Trent Alexander-Arnold, Edison if you've got them in goal. These are the big budget players. What fixtures do they have coming up? So hypothetically, I'll give you an example. If you've got Bruno Fernandes and he's got, let's say, Liverpool, Chelsea, and let's say Leicester in the next 5 game weeks, so he's got 3 of the game weeks, you're playing them, and you've got someone like a Mane who, along with Salah, is going to be playing, let's say, 3 of the promoted clubs in the next 5 game weeks. So you're going to sit there and think to yourself, yes, you want to be loyal. Yes, you would think, Bruno will come good in those games, but it's not always the case. Sometimes you have to be a bit sensible and a bit kind of like, follow your gut feeling and follow your inkling of, who you want to kind of bet on. So I think, if you look at it from a statistical point of view, the likelihood of Mane or Salah getting more points in those fixtures will be seen more likely. So that's why it's better to look at those fixtures and go, for this period, I'm going to take Fernandes out and I'm going to bring in Salah or Mane because of the fixtures. And obviously, once that period's over, if you want to revert back to your Bruno Fernandes captaincy choice or player of premium, then that's something that obviously you can do. And, don't be too loyal to your own team. Don't stack up on all their players. This is the reason why, the long-term plan does come handy. And you need to make sure, along with that, the fixtures you do observe and you think that these are the best fixtures for this player, make your decision for captaincy based on that as well. And also choose players in form. Just because they have a difficult game coming ahead, they could literally be in form. So I'll give you an example from last season. Gundogan was a player that I kind of overlooked a lot. And there were managers out there who got him in a real good time, and they really benefited from his good form, and they were able to increase their scores. And it kind of at that point was a differential aspect because they kind of backed their instinct, got him in, and he got some points, and it moved them up on the ranking scale. So if you see someone who's getting into really good form, and despite they've got difficult fixtures coming up, get them in your squad, back them, and just be brave and see if they can actually give you the return that you're kind of like, all the faith that you're putting into them at that moment in time. So that was my first error that I made last season, was not planning ahead, and literally it came back to bite me at the end of the season, where my ranking wasn't where I wanted it to be. At number 2, taking too many transfer hits. So last season I wanted to be a bit more of a risk taker. I wanted to be someone who really took hits. I believed in taking it, and it actually paid off in a few game weeks. So I remember there was 2 out of 3 game weeks where I took, I think, 3 hits and 4 hits, but I got 100 points in return. That worked great. But if you looked at it from the kind of like period afterwards, I did that for 2 to 3 weeks more, but it came back to bite me. So it doesn't always work out, and it does kind of even itself out. So in the long term, are you actually gaining from these hits, or are they actually going to be a bit more of a burden because you're changing and chopping and changing far too much a bit of patience will pay dividends, and that's for me something that I learned the hard way last season by actually giving it a go. Seasons before, I kind of laid back and I thought, you know what, believe, and I thought, you know what, next season, which was last season, I was thinking, I've backed them, I went for them. I'm not saying I'm not going to do that whatsoever. I will, but not to the extreme extent I did last season. So don't take too many hits. Try to be sensible. Just be patient with the players you do bring in. Just because Bruno or Salah or Sterling, Kane don't fire in 2 games for you, doesn't mean you take them out in the 3rd game. Be patient. Give them a 6 to 8 weeks run, and if you see that there's no improvement and you feel that it's time for a change, then I can understand. But too much chopping and changing will actually, in the long run, not only cost you 4-point hits, but it will actually make you kind of miss out on the best parts of those players or their performances across the FPL season that we kind of expect and rightfully expect with the prices that have been set respectively on this FPL game. Okay, so number 3, using your vital chips way too early. So I was guilty of this last season. I remember I used my chip with Salah when he played, I think it was Fulham. At that point, he had some really good game weeks. What I learned from that is using your chips, too early is kind of detrimental as well. So I always recommend, from last season's learnings, that was an error that I made, is I'm going to save them till the second half of the season. And there's a real vital reason for why I'm going to do that. Double game weeks, more fixture congestion, more idea of who's playing well, who's not playing well, and what the season is shaping up to be. So using something like, wild card, I wouldn't say use it in game week 2. Unless you made a drastic error in your lineup and you want to make a drastic change, don't use your first wild card in game week 2. I think it's a waste of a chip. Let it run for at least a couple of weeks before you do indeed use it due to injuries and other formalities. However, using something like a bench boost, again, is a double game week, you'll get more chance of points with, if someone's playing 1 game in 1 week. So let's say Salah, like I did last season, he played Fulham at home. I played him captain in that game week. Let's say after January, due to the FA Cup, Champions League and other League Cup competitions, you get someone like a Liverpool who are playing 2 games. And there were some weeks where there was players who were playing 3 games in 1 game weeks of FPL. So that's where we can actually utilise these chips, especially the triple captain, because obviously the captaincy chip every week gives you double points, but the triple captaincy obviously will give you the triple points for that game week alone. So if you've got a double game week, let's say Liverpool are playing someone like Tottenham and Brighton, I think even if Salah doesn't fire in one of the games, you've got a backup for them to come back and kind of get some points in the return or the second fixture in that game week. So don't do the mistake that I made, or don't make the mistake that I did last season. Try to keep hold of your chips as long as you can and use them vitally at the right time, because A, that will help your kind of overall rank, and B, it'll kind of give you the confidence to make decisions later in the season where there might be some managers who are very impatient and make their decision of using their chips a lot sooner. So that's my other errors that I made last season that I don't look to make this season itself. It might affect your ranking for the first half of the season. You might look at yourself and go, do you know what, I'm X amount behind X person, but they might have used all their chips. If you've got them intact, you will be holding the aces in your hand. All right, so that's the biggest kind of like tip I can give you in regards to your chips that you'll be, obviously you've been given already to when you started this game. Number 4, early transfers. So for me, when I say early transfers, that doesn't mean don't make it the start of the week. Obviously, there are price rises, there's price changes as people make more transfers and players come into their squads. So from that perspective, it's good to get them in early. But I'll give you an example. Last season, there was a game where Kevin De Bruyne was playing a game. He got 2 goals and an assist. And in the second half, he got injured, got a knee injury or something, and he was out for 6 weeks. And I'd made that transfer at half-time during that game. I thought, you know what, next game they've got a promoted club they're playing, and they've got some really good fixtures coming up. I want De Bruyne in my squad. So I made the transfer, got De Bruyne in, and guess what, he's out for 6 weeks. 11.5 mil, a lot of money spent on a player, and he was not going to play due to injury. So what I had to do then was make another transfer, lose 4 points, it got really messy. So be patient of when you make your transfers. Maybe not do it during the game. Be a bit patient. Once all the games are over and you know what the injury fronts are and you got all the updates of someone being fit for next week, make your transfer then. So don't go too early. Just be a bit patient and then make your rational decision around who you're going to bring in for your transfers and who you are going to be, looking to rotate in or kind of take out from your FPL squads. Last but not least, don't chase names. Just chase the reward. That's the biggest tip I can give you. So when I say don't chase names and chase the reward, chasing names, for example. So you've got N'Golo Kante, for example. I think he's probably one of the most under profile, but I think he's probably one of the best footballers on the football field right now as we speak. But if we look at him from an FPL perspective, he only got around 62 points last season. Now, for a player of his ability, you think to yourself, what are you talking about, Mo? Come on, he's a great player. If you're new to this game, you're thinking, he doesn't get me points. It's only 5 mil. I really want to invest in him. I think he'll get me some points. I'll have him as a holding midfielder. I'll really invest money elsewhere. But he's a great name. But from an FPL point of view, I would say definitely not. You'd also look at it from, for example, someone like a Jordan Henderson, a James Milner. These are great players. You'll probably look at someone like a Fred McTominay, who had a really good season. Last season was probably his best season in terms of scoring and stuff. But are they going to get you those big points that you're really looking for? So don't really chase the names. Chase, the profile in terms of what someone can get you in return. So let me give you an example. In terms of who I'd chase, who's probably not a big name, but I think he will probably do well this season. In my humble opinion, is I think someone like who could we say? Yeah. So in terms of not having a name, I think the player for what squad did he go to? Yes. So I think it's Jack Harrison who's going to go back to, I think he's City. That's what I remember. Yeah, he's Manchester City. Jack Harrison's going to go from Manchester City. They're looking to buy him on a permanent deal at Leeds. I was trying to remember what club he's gone back to, parent club. So Leeds are looking to bring him back. So he's not really a big player in terms of FPL managers going wild around him. Let's look at him. He's worth 6 mil. Probably the highest scoring midfielder last season in terms of his price bracket, which is listed this season. It's not a high profile. You might not think to yourself, Jack Harrison's going to give me rewards. But let's look at it last season. He got 170 plus points. For 6 mil, that is someone I'm going to be considering. And that's an error that I don't want to make, is chasing profile players with names and not actually looking at it from an FPL perspective. So I lived and learnt the hard way. And that is literally the 5 errors that I made last season, which affected my ranking. So I thought I'd share it with you guys. If you're beginning your journey in the FPL game itself and you're a new manager, these are some tips from me to make sure that I can give you kind of the best guidance to avoid any errors that I've made previously, to allow you guys to have a good season and have a great start to your FPL managing career. In addition, if there's anything you feel that I've said in here that you do agree with, or something that I haven't said or haven't mentioned, and you think that you're doubting yourself on something, let me know. Contact me on my social media, leave me some comments, let me know what your thoughts are. How did you find this video? Did you enjoy it? Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and hit that notifications icon to get the latest notifications for my channel FPL Inklink and for the FPL Fantasy Premier League game for 2021-2022 season. If you haven't joined my league on FPL, please join it. The league code is on the bottom left. Join it. Let's have a great season and a great end, or let's have a great start to the new season and end it well as well. Thank you so much for viewing. I'll see you guys soon and have a lovely evening.